here with Emily Bird and Jim Fish, and it is a warm, very toasty April day. I don't know. I guess I know how it is where Jen is, and it's
Mhm.
probably warmer where Emily is. But how has the rest of the week, other than the weather, how has the rest of the week been?
Oh, it's good here. It's 91 as we speak.
No. Oh, heck no.
Yes. And I was like, it's April. Oh my goodness. But we have been outside and that's why I'm looking so lovely. um, I literally just ran in from outside to pop down and sit in front of this screen. I should have looked in a mirror first. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's been a great week. It's been a busy week. Last week was Masters Week here, and that is crazy town. And so Augusta doubles in population from what I've read, and you know it. So, but if you don't go out in the first part of the morning or in the evening, in the middle of the day is doable because everybody's at Augusta National watching golf. So you have to really plan when you leave your house. But this week has gotten we're back into the normal swing of things. So, but it's fun. I like a different routine last week. That's fun.
All the traffic. I don't think I could do it.
Yes, it's a little crazy. It's just different. It's a whole different town. So, but it's exciting though. And Jason Berg got to attend his first Masters, and that was an experience. So it was fun. He loved it.
That's
So
exciting. There was a guy from Chattanooga. Uh, he was a Baylor and UTC grad, representing down there. And
really,
I don't know who he was. I feel so terrible that I didn't know. But apparently, it was like all the people at our school were like, "This is so cool." I was like, "I don't watch
oh,
golf. I'm so sorry." Oh man, Jen, what about your week? How has it been?
Yeah, it's been good. We didn't have the Masters, but I think that we have Iron Man coming up this weekend. Is that
yeah,
right? Like
I think so.
yes,
I always read roads closed, roads closed.
yes.
It's not the same thing, but it is something. Um, but yeah, we've just been we've got our science fair tonight at the homeschool co-op, and that's always signals like the end of the year. We know the end is near, so we spent the last couple of days, trying to knock out these science fair projects,
Mhm.
and I always end up with so many to do because as much as I want the kids to do it themselves, I still have to look over things and make sure they're on the right track. And I have a lot of kids, so it ends up being a whole involved thing. And I'll be really happy when science fair is over tonight at 8 o'clock.
Right.
So, but
I
it's good.
The science fair was always one of my favorite things to go to. And then now that my niece and nephew are always doing these experiments, like, I mean, or I don't want to say experiments necessarily, but like these boards and like these things, whatever. I mean, they're very different grades, like fourth and sixth. So doing very different things. But a couple of years ago, my sister, the overachiever, 100% firstborn kid, I had Isabella um do like a blood sampling, like DNA thing. And Isabella's like, what in the world? My sister was like, we're gonna do this and we're gonna figure all of this out. And so my sister learned a lot about blood types during that project. But
I think I remember that. I
it
think I
was
remember that
I
project.
I remember that. I was still there.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
It was
Yeah.
funny because Isabella Isabella got not a low grade, but she didn't make a 100, which my sister's a firstborn, very perfectionistic. And she said, "Isabella, why didn't you not know what you were talking about when she walked around?" And she said, "Because you got into it and you studied all the things and thought this would be cool, but it was hard." And Isabella was in like fourth grade at that time. Like,
I think
and
so.
so, so Isabella was like, it was hard.
It was
And so,
over my fourth grade head.
correct. But
Yes.
it was so funny. And
Yes.
we still to this day, I'm like, well, that was the best
Hmm.
you're gonna do ever with your blood samplings. But science
Yeah.
fair was always my favorite. So I'm
Yeah,
in.
we're basically just walking around looking at other parents' work. I mean, like what all the other parents can do.
Right.
No.
Oh man. Well, that does sound like an exciting night, and having the Masters in your town for a week sounds like an adventure as well. So
Fun.
it sounds fun. So today we're gonna kind of piggyback off of our conversation that we started last week, and I think that we probably could have gone on for hours and hours with conversations about communication and marriage and those kinds of things. And so, kind of piggybacking on something that Jen said about it, someone's going to be your husband's cheerleader, like make sure that it's you. And so, I think that's important, obviously, very important in marriage, fundamental in marriage. So, what does it look like to practically do that? Jen, I'm going to throw it to you since you spoke the statement that birthed this entire topic. But so for you, practically, what does that mean? What does it look like? How do we do that?
Yeah, so a long time ago, I decided that I wanted to be a positive voice in my husband's head. I think when our husbands go, and look, let me preface this by saying, anytime I say this, I get blowback because women will say, well, he should do this for you, and but I'm not talking about what he should do, right? We're here talking to women about women, and I'm just sharing what I think we should be doing as women. Or what I feel God has called me to do. So years ago, I remember thinking about the amount of stress and pressure that my husband felt at work, and about how challenging it must be to always be trying to meet a standard that seems to move. Because corporate America is a whole different place, right? Like it is, sometimes it's someone's opinion of you that can dictate how high you move up a ladder, or it's something that you don't understand the same way that someone else may. Like there's a whole lot of pressures in that world. And so I decided that I did not want to I didn't want my husband to come home to that type of environment. You didn't do this well enough. You didn't make me happy in this way. You didn't, wash the dishes the right way or take care of the kids the way I thought you should. So I worked really hard to find a way to proactively encourage my husband in talking about what he does well and what he's good at, rather than all of our conversations being what I think he could do better or what I feel like he's done wrong. So because of that, I started practicing just complimenting him on things that I thought he did well, whether it was something that he made for dinner that was delicious. And these are authentic things. Like I'm not just making stuff up. I'm looking for real things, and they're tiny things most of the time. It's just day-to-day activities, ways that I see him loving his family well, or walking in integrity, or making a decision that is good for our family, things that I can just easily compliment or call to his attention. And when I started to do that, I could see him walking more consistently in those things. So when I would call out something I thought he did well, I would see that he would try to do it again. And it's not training, I'm not like trying to teach him how to behave.
Classical conditioning.
Right. Right. Like what is Pavlov, like ringing a bell, giving him a starburst when he compliments me or the kids or something. But it is something that I think highlights in his mind something that he's doing well. And just being able to be a voice that is encouraging and uplifting rather than nagging and tearing down is huge for our husbands. There was one time when early in our marriage when he would want to go and do something, and we had young kids, and I would always feel like, well, I would rather him be here to help me and not go out and do something alone. I didn't know how important alone time was for my introverted husband. But what I did learn is that if I would give him some space to go off and do something that brought him a little bit of joy, like he likes to go out and shoot guns. So, you know, if he'd have an hour or two to do that, he would come back and be 100% invested in the house, rather than if I was like, no, I don't want you to go, I'd rather you be here. Then he's there, but he wants to be somewhere else, or he needs to be somewhere else just to get some refueling. And so he would be there, but it would be like, you know, a much more agitated situation. So I also learned to encourage him in his hobbies and things that he wanted to do, because he's a much better present father and husband when he's had time to refuel on his own. So I think it's important just to look for things, look for ways to encourage your husband to do things that bring him joy, to call out the things that you see that he does well. And that's not to say that we can never have a conversation about something that you think is not going well. We talked about that last week. I really like the idea that Emily and Jason share with scheduling a time to discuss things that aren't maybe something that you need to discuss that's not going so well. But I think marriage is better when we live in the offensive rather than in the defensive. So creating this home, this space that's warm and welcoming and encouraging as a whole, like as the norm, I guess.
Yeah.
Then when there is a moment where I step into my naggy self, or, you know, that's not who I am, it's a moment in our house. Do you know what I'm saying? So if I create a different atmosphere than normal, you know, if it's often encouraging and uplifting, then we have moments of nagging and where I fall off, rather than an environment that is nagging and, you know, combative. Then, you know, so just creating an environment that is uplifting and encouraging is paramount. And I know the things that I know the things that are going to bug him if he walks in and things are out of order. I know that's going to bug him, and it's just the way his brain works. He doesn't function well if things are out of order. So I make it a point every day. I know what time he's going to walk through the door. He's going to come in at 5:26 p.m., you know? And so at 4:45, I'm like, okay, kids, you know, we got 45 minutes. That's not good math. It's not true, is it? It is right. 15, no. And at 41, anyway, you got a few minutes.
Close enough.
Like, let's put stuff away. Let's pick up the shoes that were kicked into the floor. Let's clear the counters. You know, like if dad wants to come in and start cooking something, if I haven't made dinner, he likes the counters clear. So that we just take a few minutes to prepare the house for him to walk in, so that when he comes in, it's a peaceful environment. Now, if I'm having a crazy day and I don't get that done, he doesn't come in and like, you know, get upset about it. He understands. But if the typical day goes as it should, then we have this atmosphere of consistently preparing for dad to come home. So I don't know. That's just a few things that I try to do practically to make this place a place my husband wants to be.
Yeah. And I like that you use the word nagging, because I think a lot of times problems that arise in marriages is, you know, oh, well, she nags me all the time. And there was a quote that I heard, actually, I read in a book, and it popped up in my memories last year because apparently I thought it was great enough that I posted it. And I cannot for the life of me remember exactly what it said. But I believe it was a spin on the original Teddy Roosevelt quote, where he said, complaining about a problem without proposing a solution is whining. And so this took more of the complaining about a problem without proposing a solution is nagging. And so it's not helping you solve the problem. If you're saying, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem, but you're not ever saying, here's a possible solution, or hey, this is how I feel, like you make me feel this, you need to do this, I do this to you, whatever, you know, go back and forth with that. I feel, I need you to do, but you're not ever proposing like, hey, maybe if we sit down and figure out what works best for you, you know, like, you know, that he likes to have the counters cleared, and he knows like she loves me, and so she wants me to have a peaceful home, so that's something that you do. And I think when we work through little, even small, not, I don't mean that to say that that's small. Please don't hear that. But something like that where we can talk through and say, this actually creates a welcoming environment. It goes from, well, she just nags me all the time because I come home and I'm grumpy, but she's done X, Y, and Z, and it becomes, okay, we're problem solving now. We're communicating. It's a two-way street. It's not whining or nagging. And I really wish I could remember the other quote, but I do believe it was just a play on the Teddy Roosevelt quote. But Emily, for you and Jason Bird, and I will never just call him Jason. I can't. It's just
I don't either.
it just can't happen. But for you and Jason Bird, what does it look like to practically live out being his biggest cheerleader?
Number one, he knows that I'm always in his corner. I'm going to build him up. And he does live in that corporate world, and it is hard. And he is being beat up day in and day out. His job is never ceasing. So, he's always dealing with hard stuff, and it's stressful stuff, and like Jen, you said it perfectly, it's fickle, it changes according to people's opinions, and it just seems like, oh, he has solved the problem, and then, oh, no, actually we're going to change the problem, we're going to add this little dimension to it, and you've got to, it is stressful. So he needs to know when he comes home that number one, we're steadfast, that we're not changing, that I am always for him. And more than anything, more than the job, he needs to know that this girl right here is his number one cheerleader, that I am so proud of him, and not proud of what he's necessarily doing. Yes, I'm proud of that, but I am proud of who he is. The other day, I got to spend a weekend with my high school girlfriends. We had so much fun. So I was away for the weekend. And then when I get back home, Lindsay and Aaron are telling me all the fun things that Jason Bird has been doing with them, because he is dad extraordinaire. And that on Saturday night, he had taken them to all of these different stores, CVS and Walgreens and Walmart. And anyways, there was like 5 stores looking for this specific lip oil. Now, I didn't even know what lip oil was until this weekend, but and he's like, we're going to find it. They are over the moon that this sweet man would go to all of the drugstores trying to find this particular brand of lip oil for his little girls. I love that. That is the man that I married. And so because, well, first of all, he's like, if you had been, well, let me preface, like Jason Bird, I love that you are our girl's daddy. And I was so proud that he would do that. And he was like, well, I know if you had been here, you would have said, number one, they do not need $8 lip oil. Absolutely not. And we would have given it up. But when CVS didn't have it, I'm not going to go to 5 other stores, because I'm a fuddy-duddy and I am no fun. But he is fun. And what he did for my little girls, or I should say for our little girls, was huge. He's such a good dad. And me affirming to him, I love the way that you love our girls. That's huge. And when I tell him that they love the Lord so much more because of their loving father, they have such a sweet example of what a loving father does, and it's made them love the Lord more. That is heartening for him, and it gives him confidence to continue to love him the way, or love them the way that the Lord loves him and loves the rest of us. He's given such a good example. And when I compliment him on his looks, we are getting middle age. We are. I mean, I say getting. We're there. We are waving the middle age flag. We're there in full force. But our bodies are changing. My body is changing. His body is changing. But he is still so strong. And I hug him and I was like, you're like hugging a tree. You are, he is, and he's so muscular in these shoulders. And so, and the girls are like, Mama, that's so gross. But I will always compliment him. And I love to touch these shoulders and these arms. And when he's been working out, I mean, he's like pumped. I'm like, oh my goodness, I just love it. But he wants me to notice. And there's never a time that I say, flex those arms. He won't go like, oh, I'm not going to do that. He'll always go like, oh, he's, um, we need to build our men up. And the features that you love about them most, compliment them on it. Tell them. I was reading it, and I know I talked about this before we started recording. But I read this earlier this week. There was a lady, her name's Dr. Terry Orbaugh. She studied 373 couples for 22 years. That's a long time to study couples. But the one thing that she got from this, and this is quoted, one simple thing that happy couples do every day is to give each other effective affirmation. And so what is effective affirmation? It's words, gestures, acts that shows your spouse that he is noticed, that he's appreciated, that he's respected, loved, and desired. And that the research, what I thought was fascinating, what has stuck with me, is that the research shows that husbands need this more than wives. I'm like, I need affirmation. And yes, we need affirmation from our husbands. But what they found is the research shows that we women in our friend groups, we naturally affirm each other. We emotionally connect with each other and we build each other up. That's just a natural thing that we do with our friend groups of the same sex. However, men, when they're connecting, they're usually connecting over some kind of activity. And I think about Jason Bird and his friends groups. They go hunting together, they go and hit golf balls. They're always doing something together. They don't just say, hey, let's sit and let's drink coffee and talk. They don't do that. So what they have discovered, though, is that we are the primary source of this affirmation for our husbands. So, ladies, we've got to be intentional that I am my husband's cheerleader. Not some other person, but it's me, and that he is receiving this affirmation from me. That has really rocked my world. And we've got to remember that if we quote Proverbs 18:21, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat of its fruit. I've got to make sure that I'm intentional in speaking life into my husband. It's easy for me to speak death. It's easy for me to stay in my humanness and speak exactly what immediately comes out of my mouth without any thought. Because usually, I shouldn't say usually, but often it may not be kind. I can easily gripe on all the things that I am frustrated with. But I have to be intentional to speak life and to open my eyes to see all the good things that Jason Bird is doing. And when I begin to look for those good things, I see them. I see them in droves, but I have to be intentional to look for it rather than, the stuff that he's not meeting. I could easily pick out those things that he's not meeting. But when I begin to look for the good things, they come out. And therefore, when the things that we do need to talk about, Jennifer, you're exactly right. When I have filled his cup to overflowing, then it's a whole lot easier. He's a whole lot more receptive to when I give him difficult feedback. This one, you dropped the ball on this. I really need you. And instead of being defensive because I'm harping on him all the time, he will receive it so much easier when I am kind and I've been filling his cup rather than emptying his cup. And finally the cup is completely empty and there's nothing to take from it. So we need to be intentional to fill our husbands' cups and to speak life into them. So anyways.
I think so as you both have been sharing, I think my thoughts have been, well, in complete total agreement with both of you. But I was thinking about just the women that are listening to this podcast and how we three have wonderful, God-fearing, loving husbands who do those things for us also, right? They affirm us, they do these things. So, what do we say to encourage, or what do we say to the person who is like, hey, listen, I don't have a Jason Bird? Not that we compare, we're not comparing husbands,
No.
but like, I don't have that encouragement coming my way. And yes, I can get that from my friends, right? We know that science shows that. But there is a little bit of a female that does need that affirmation also from her husband. So what do we, and this is just me, this is a curveball, you guys listening. They did not see this coming. I just saw it just as I threw it out of my hand. But I guess my thought is just so that we're not isolating, because I think that's it can make it feel isolated, like, oh well, does that make sense? Like, and so what do we
Yes.
say? How do we encourage those hearts? Because that's a hard place to be, where you're just like, I tried encouraging. I watched the movie Fireproof and tried the book and tried the things, like, and it's just not happening. What do we say to those ladies? And that's a curveball. So if you need a second, take it. But Jen, I'm gonna throw it to you. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Like I said, curveball, but I want everyone listening, no matter where they're at, to be able to take away practical tools from today as well, which I think there are
Yes.
practical tools for everyone in what's been said,
Sure.
but sometimes
Yes.
our hearts aren't ready to hear that before. So
Yes. 100%. I agree with you, Bree. A few years ago, I sat with a woman who packed her belongings in her trunk and drove from the house that she shared with her husband straight to meet me for dinner. And she said, I'm done. I'm leaving. I've done all I can do. She is a believer. She just loves the Lord. And he, at that time, was a professing Christian, but not a practicing Christian. Not, there wasn't a whole lot of fruit in his walk. And she just was completely broken over dinner. And I remember as I sat there talking with her, she had done all of these things. I had been working with her for a period of months before that day, and she had been trying to be the encourager and trying to be the one to speak life into their marriage. And I told her on that day what I would tell any woman, is in that situation, your best weapon is prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, I love prayer books. A Power of Praying Wife changed my life in 2010. And getting a resource like that, or just beginning to pray for your husband in specific ways. That book is very topical. You pray over all of him, throughout this period of 30 days or whatever it is. And that was life-changing for my marriage. And ultimately for my friend's marriage. She was able to walk through that book and pray for her husband, and to be able to continue to encourage. And they lived apart for a while. She didn't go right back home, but she was able to continue to encourage him and to speak. I was shocked, honestly, that she could continue to do it, but she was drawing her strength from the Lord, saying, Lord, I'm not getting fulfillment from my marriage, but I think the best way to save my marriage is by continuing these things, just acting out the fruit of the Spirit. I just had it in front of me. Goodness, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, all of those things, acting out, walking in the Spirit and not in the flesh. As I try to relate to my husband, he is not giving me any of that back. So Lord, I need you to fill this empty cup while I'm waiting for him to respond. And hopefully he will. Hopefully it will be a quick. It's often not, unfortunately. But while you're waiting on your husband to return, I think what we have to do is do what God has called us to do. Now, if we're talking about, an abusive situation or something, this is not that. Like this,
Right.
this this is not that. But if it's a healthy marriage, just where you're dealing maybe with a non-believer, or a man that is just distracted and not able to encourage you right now or speak the way you speak to him back to you, I think the only thing you can do with that is submit it to the Lord in prayer, because you can't change him. And that's not really what we're called to do. Right? So we're pursuing Christ. This is what Christ asks of me, to walk in the Spirit. And these are the ways that he expects me to act. He doesn't, if your husband isn't saved, he doesn't have the fruit of the Spirit. He's not walking in peace, patience, kindness, goodness, love, joy, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. He doesn't have those gifts. So he's walking in the flesh, and he can't act in the Spirit. So the first thing I would say is that you would just pray over him. Emily, I did the same thing with her. I said, make a list of the things that he does right in your marriage. Find the good, because we do get in this rut where we see the bad and we're looking for the bad and we're highlighting the bad. And if you can switch your perspective and find the good, then you'll see it. Like Emily said, it really is true that you will begin to see more and more good. And I think that you still speak to the good, you still encourage the good. And practically, you just lean into the Lord to fill your cup, because it is, I know it's like asking someone to do something impossible, to continue to walk in self-control and love, joy, peace, patience, when you're not getting that back. So I hope that that's a good place to start. I know that sometimes we think prayer is the last resort, or, well, all you can do is pray. No, the best thing you can do is pray, because God can change that man's heart. I've seen it. My friend saw it. She did reconcile. Her marriage is in a much better place now. But she just had to walk through that difficult time and fight for her marriage in prayer.
I love that. I think that's a perfect answer. I think that, it's like you said, oftentimes the last place we go is prayer, or people say, "Oh, I feel so bad. All I can do is pray for you." No, you're bringing my name before the creator of the universe. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that, because that's a big
Huge.
deal. So I love that answer. And I know that, like I said, once again, it was a curveball, but I feel like there's probably women out there that listen to this and might be saying, well, hey, listen, like, I can relate on some level, but how do we reach that next little thing? Emily, is there anything else that you would add to that, though?
I think she was very, very thorough. I think you covered it all. And as I'm writing my notes down, it's like, oh, and then you got it too. So no, I think you're good. I do think that we can remember, though, 1 Peter 3, when it says, wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husband, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives, when they see the purity and the reverence of your lives. And what I have highlighted and underlined and circled, because it needs to be a reminder that they may be won over without words. We women, we're wordy. We are quick to call them out. We're quick to, want to change behavior. If my husband's behavior is going to change, I've got to be the example, and I've got to win them over without me nagging them, and it says without words, but by the behavior of their wives. I think I can add some good words in there. I can add kind, affirmative words, and that I'm loving unconditionally. And that's hard to do when you are not the one receiving the love back. But I love that he tells us that they can be won over without our words. So anyways, we've got to mind our P's and Q's in our behavior.
No,
and
definitely.
try to have purity and be pure and reverent. So, but no, Jen, you answered that very thoroughly. Perfect. Prayer, I would have said number 1, prayer, without a doubt.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's just a reminder for all of us to conduct ourselves in whether we are happy, there's affirmation going around both ways, or if it's just a one-way street at this moment, conducting ourselves in in a manner worthy of the calling. There we go. Words are
Yes.
hard today. I'm so sorry. In a
Perfect.
manner worthy of the calling, and in our following Jesus, looking like him and being a true representation of him. And I think to be a good wife, to have good communication, it starts with looking like Jesus and sacrificing our wants and desires just as he sacrificed his life. So,
And Brie, I think it's okay to recognize that that's hard. That it's
oh yeah,
it's gonna be hard, and I'm sorry, but it
yeah,
might stink for a while. And you know, sometimes we think if this is hard, God's not in it. There's
No.
been a whole lot of growth in my life that came from the hard. You know, the when I didn't feel fulfillment in my marriage, you know, those moments, those times that come when I was a new mom, you know, when you can't see the world clearly, that, you know, those seasons come, and recognizing that following Christ and being like him is that's, I mean, it's called take up your cross, you know? It's not go out and jump on the trampoline, it's take up
right.
your cross, you know? So recognizing, yes, this is difficult and I am walking a path that is real hard right now, but God's grace is sufficient. He will fill me. Trust him to make you complete. Your husband can't do that anyway. The best husband on the best day isn't made to complete you. He cannot fulfill you. That is not his job, and it's too much pressure if you're making it his job.
I agree.
100%.
So recognizing, hey, this marriage thing is going to be tough sometimes. Emily, you said something a few minutes ago about being problem solvers. Was that you? About
Free.
Great, yes, problem solving. So Jared and I implemented this, gosh, just relatively recently, where we were running into like being late for church, and Jared Kish is not late for anything ever. And so he said, we're going to solve this problem. And so he created a plan and we solved the problem. And now if you're looking for us on Sunday morning, we're at church at 9 o'clock. We don't have to be there until 9:30, but by golly, we're there at 9 a.m. whether we want to be or not. But so he started saying that. He started saying, we're problem solvers. And even just saying that to one another, it changes. Oh, well, yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. You know, whatever the problem may be, you know, so you find a way to work together to be problem solvers, which leads me to my next thing, which is being on the offensive in the words that we say. My pastor said something this weekend that I loved. He said that he and his wife will say to one another multiple times a day, I love this life with you. And I thought, man, I love that, because we're real intentional about, you know, sending messages back and forth during the day and just touching base and, you know, all the I love yous all the time. But to say something so specific, I love this life with you. And maybe those aren't your words. I told Jared over lunch on Sunday, I was like, we need something like I don't want it to be exactly that, because I feel like that's theirs, but y'all can have it. You can steal it. You know, something like that, that just reminds you, heck yeah, I love this life with you. I love what we're building. I love what God is allowing us to do. And you know, we have another phrase that we say, we're all in. I'm 100% focused on you. You know, you're 100% focused on me. And if we're 100% focused on one another, then there's no gaps there, right? My focus is Jared, Jared's focus is me, then we're both feeling equally fulfilled. Of course, life gets in the way, and sometimes, you know, it's hard to be 100% all the time. But if you just have those recurring themes underlying your marriage, I think that will help as well. But yeah, it's going to be hard. The best marriage is going to have real hard days.
Most definitely. Two sinners coming together, trying to be a picture of the way that Christ loves the church. And I was in a study the other day, and I was just thinking, like, sometimes in marriage we love one another the way that the church loves Christ, not the way that Christ loved the church. We're like, oh well, you're an option when I feel like it, you know. But yeah, no, definitely, I like that. And Joseph has over the past few years, Joseph has started just randomly like, I just love doing life with you. And I'm like, he's like, or don't we have a great life? I'm like, and it's usually, you know, when nothing crazy is even happening. I'm like, we're not on the beach. We're just driving down the road in the car. And I'm like, nothing even fun's happening. Like, we got to go pay bills and stuff. But it's a really sweet little thing that he started saying. So,
I love that.
oh goodness. So, well, ladies, I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to talk with you guys today. And I just know that everyone listening, because of the Holy Spirit, is going to also gain something from this today. And if you have not yet followed us, you can follow us on Facebook and on YouTube. If you look on YouTube, you can find our videos. We had a little issue with a video a few weeks ago. That's on me. That's on me and my computer. But Joseph the Wiz fixed it, I guess, and here we are. But you can follow us on YouTube and get updated updates whenever we post a new video. Follow us on Facebook and you'll get updates regularly as well. So, all right, well, we will talk to you guys in a couple weeks.